Welcome to Camp Constitution Radio with your host, Hal Shurtleff. This show is heard on WBCQ The Planet every Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's also heard on IPMNation.org on Saturday afternoons. I think it's 1:30 Eastern Standard Time. I know they change. It's based out of Concord, New Hampshire. It's a 24-hour online news service, and they're very gracious to run these shows complimentary, free of charge, so grateful to them. This show is brought to you by Camp Constitution, which, among other things, runs a wonderful week-long camp, a week and a day, actually. Next year's camp, July 2nd to the 9th, at the beautiful Towanipi Christian Retreat Center. And we, Camp Constitution, has just recently started a speakers bureau. And if you visit our website, you will see the number of speakers. We just added Dr. Duke Pesta to the Speakers Bureau. And what we simply ask is that if you have an organization or you'd like to bring one of our speakers, we're going to be adding to that. Get a few other people who will be adding to that. You cover the cost and work out an honorarium, usually with the speaker, and a certain percentage goes to Camp Constitution. So it's not this cumbersome, all kinds of paperwork and what have you. There are some of the speeches we may be willing to help cover the cost, depending on the topic and where it is, and what have you. Anyway, just visit the website. You'll see the Speakers Bureau drop down, and also the Sam Blumenfeld archives. I've talked about this. Of course, I think I've even dedicated a few shows over the last year or so since the passing of that fine man. But we are very proud of the hits. We're averaging about 150 to 160,000 per month on the site. All kinds of great materials and downloads. Well, busy news week, I would say, to say the least. The election of Donald John Trump. That surprised a lot of people. And by the way, just let me qualify, Camp Constitution does not endorse, and that we've never endorsed any candidates. Our goal is, in a small way, to help create informed voters, an informed electorate. If people understood the Camp Constitution, they would be more inclined to support and vote for those who advocate limited government under the Constitution, and that's where our job is. I would say a lot of the people that support the camp program, some of them voted for Donald Trump, no question about it. Some enthusiastically, some not so enthusiastically, but nevertheless. But one of the most interesting things, and I wrote a blog not too long ago about it, the average American does not know the job description of the president. Now, just before the show, I was listening, I've been watching the YouTube channel, some of the comments of people, their thoughts on Donald Trump. Hollywood, the left, the sports elite, all despise Donald Trump, and they're terribly upset. The poor brainwashed Common Core victims, the brainwashed victims at most of your major colleges around the country, they're in tears. There was one guy who was actually wanting people to run him over. He was so upset. And you know something, folks, all of these leftists or these liberal Republicans or these neocons, they have nothing to complain about because they want the office of the president to be all-powerful. You see, if the president was under the Constitution, the office of the president, the executive branch was constitutional, people would realize that he or she has very, very few powers and duties, less than Congress, and a little bit more than the Supreme Court. So they shouldn't be all that upset no matter who becomes president. Yes, it's an important, no matter, even if they were following the Constitution, but it's not a life and death issue. And simply, the job description is found in that Constitution in the Article 2, Section 2. And I'm going to just review it very briefly. The President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states when called into the actual service of the United States. He may require an opinion in writing of the principal officers in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective offices, and he shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. He shall have power, and with the advice and consent of the Senate, and that usually means a quorum of the Senate, usually 51 or a majority, to make treaties provided by 2/3 of the senators concur, and that would be 2/3 of at least 51. And he shall nominate and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers, and consuls, I should say, judges of the Supreme Court in all offices of the United States whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, and which shall be established by law. Okay, I'm skipping a little bit here. The President shall have the power to fill up all vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate by granting commissions, which shall expire at the end of the next session. So if the Secretary of State decides to resign, and he can fill that if Congress is recessed. You know, I think Bill Clinton did that, and he never relinquished. It was I forget what office it was. He shall from time to time, this is Section 3 now, he shall from time to time give to the Congress information of the state of the Union and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. So he recommends. So the President can't make law. He does not make law. He recommends. He has a lot of influence. He can be a sort of a bully pulpit. So if Donald Trump says he wants to do away with Common Core, well, then he can simply say to Congress, no more money be appropriated to implement Common Core. And he can even abolish the Department of Education because it's an unconstitutional entity, part of the executive branch. He may, on extraordinary occasions, convene both houses of either of them, and in case of disagreement between them, with respect to the time and adjournment, he may adjourn them to such time as he shall think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers. He shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. That's the most important job he has, to faithfully execute the laws of the United States, and shall commission all the offices of the United States. And number 4, it says the President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Now, the President also will sign on Article 1, Section 7. He must approve all bills and other things coming from Congress. Of course, the President can be overridden. He can simply veto, not sign a bill, pocket vetoes, and what have you. And a veto can be overridden by 2/3 of the House and Senate. So there aren't a whole lot of duties. So why do we hear that the President is the most powerful person in the free world? That's not in the job description. Or the President is going to give us a balanced budget, or is going to create a million jobs. It's not the President's job to create jobs or balance. It's his job to veto an unbalanced budget, perhaps, but Congress is the one that appropriates it. So, and also that we don't live in a democracy. I heard that today. We live in a democracy. We don't. We live in a republic where the rules or the rights of the minority are protected by the whims of the majority. At least that's what we want to see. Now, in the wake of the Trump election, there were riots all over the country. Rent-a-mobs, most of them. They weren't spontaneous uprisings. And what was very fascinating, too, is the number of people just screaming, murdered, crying their eyes out. There was one, a young homosexual man. He was, Trump is going to put people like me in concentration camps. And you hear these people say he is this horrible racist and this misogynist. And I mean, they actually believe this. That's the sad thing. Some of these people actually believe that. Now, Trump, again, I have reservations about Mr. Trump, his moral character to an extent. But look at the alternative. My goodness, Hillary Clinton. Trump is supposed to be a racist. Hillary is an admirer of Margaret Sanger. She's admitted this. You can go on YouTube. In fact, go to Camp Constitution's YouTube channel, and you'll see it. That she loves Margaret Sanger. Well, Sanger was a flaming racist. She promoted the Negro Project. She called for the extermination of Negroes, of blacks. And Hillary admires her. Not just a little bit, but a whole lot. We're going to be posting a letter on our Scribd page I'm probably going to put it in a blog as well, that Sanger sent to a doctor in Milton, Massachusetts, the town right next to me, by the way, where she's saying we're going to use black clergy members to promote this extermination, through birth control, through other things. And she was a eugenicist, and she had a Nazi doctor write for her birth control review. So why is she getting a free ride? Could you imagine Donald Trump getting up there and said, I'm an admirer of Adolf Hitler. I'm an admirer of Heinrich Himmler. Of course he should be, but he's never saying anything like that. He doesn't admire Margaret Sanger, but she does. And the idea of all these progressives, they're supposed to be against big business and against Wall Street and against the 1%ers. Then they should be against Hillary Clinton. She's joined to the hip to the establishment. She gets money from Wall Street, and you can actually see another YouTube video. She's giving a talk at the Council on Foreign Relations headquarters. Their new headquarters, I guess their D.C. branch. Their headquarters is in New York City, but she's down there and speaking to them. She's very happy. She's very proud to be part of this, and she says something to the effect, we don't have to go to New York to get our marching orders. We can just go up the street. So she's saying that the Council on Foreign Relations is giving her marching orders. Well, that's something that a lot of us have believed for many years. Jim Perloff, who's been a guest on the show, wrote an incredible book called Shadows of Power, the Council on Foreign Relations and American Decline. So she's admitting that she's getting her cues from this entity promoting the New World Order. Oh, and then she'll ridicule the idea, this idea of a conspiracy theory of one world government. Yet Walter Cronkite, this was in the late 90s, I believe. Walter Cronkite, since deceased, he gets the Global Governance Award, Norman Cousins Award, from the World Federalists. And she wasn't at the event, but they had a video of her, which you can see on our YouTube channel. She's praising this. So she's advocating global government. She's promoting the International Council on Foreign Relations. She's a big supporter of Margaret Sanger and the racist Planned Parenthood. All these progressives think she's some kind of outsider that's going to put Wall Street on alert. We're not going to put up with this anymore. She's a supporter of the international, all these trade agreements that the elites have been pushing us, NAFTA, the WTO, and now the Transatlantic Partnership and the Trans-Pacific Partnership. She supports these agreements, yet she comes out and says that she's an outsider. Well, by the way, I want to just mention my good friend Dan McGonigle is on the line. Dan, I'm glad you could join. And one of the things, Dan, I wanted to talk to you about, now you in my home, I think it was the night of the New Hampshire primary, and Trump won, not just just wiped out his opponents. And I think the following month there was another primary results. And you had said all along that not only would he get the nomination, but he'd win the White House. So I think you should become a media pundit. People should come to you, and even though you did support him, you did look at you never once did you think he would lose the president. So I want to mention that. But Dan, this is what we're hearing lately. We're hearing now that because of this horrible Mr. Trump, that we now have to change the Electoral College. And of course, we heard this in 2001 or 2000 in the election of George Bush, when it was a very, very close race. We had to rely on the results in Florida, and Bush did not get the majority. He did not get the popular vote.
The last final count I saw on the internet, the last count of the popular vote showed Trump ahead by between 600,000 and 700,000.
Oh, I think I saw that, but I don't know if it was confirmed. I know. I think it was. So he did get the. But this is my concern too about the Electoral College. I think the left will try to change that. This is nothing new. And Hillary, by the way, I just hope to God that whether or not she's prosecuted, that the Clinton criminal regime comes to an end. The Clinton Foundation is fined and put out of business, and these two people, we just don't hear from them again. I hope that's what happens.
they'd have to. Would they have to pass an amendment to the Constitution in Congress?
Yes, to do away with the Electoral College, and right now it's
and
unlikely.
That has to be ratified by 3/4 of the states.
That's correct, 38 states. But my concern is that they will push an Article 5 convention to do this.
Yeah, right.
This is the idea. The Constitution was set up, but some very wise people gave us this Constitution. And initially, during the convention of 1787, they said, well, let's just have the House and Senate choose the president. That was the first thought. Then, no, let's. So they came up with this. It's like they were concerned about states with small populations being pretty much overwhelmed by states with large populations. So in order to form this union, they had to say, they said, look, the states with every state will have 2 senators, and then the House of Representatives made up by the population. And the Senate has a little more influence in some cases. So you can say it's a little more powerful. They're there for 6 years, and at that time they were chosen by state legislators. But they also, when it comes to electoral votes, and by the way, you'll see this in the 12th Amendment, Article 2, and then the 12th Amendment, where they had to change it. It used to be initially that the runner-up, the guy who got the second amount of electoral votes, became the president. But they had a couple of issues, especially with Aaron Burr and Thomas Jefferson, so they decided to have 2 separate ballots with the 12th Amendment. And it worked out pretty well. It's only been, I think, 2 cases where the House of Representatives actually had to pick the president. That was John Quincy Adams over Andrew Jackson, and Hayes, Rudd Hayes, over, I think it was Tilden, from New York. That's the only 2 examples. And there's been a few other times when the president-elect didn't get the popular vote, but he got the electoral vote. And I think the electoral vote is that we should keep it. My only thing, like Maine, where this show was heard, and you've traveled up to Aroostook County a number of times with me, Maine is one of the 2 states, I don't know the other state offhand, where the winner doesn't take all for the state, that the electoral votes will be awarded by congressional district. Maine has 2 congressional districts, and the 2nd district, which is north of Augusta and Aroostook County, what have you, that area up there, Bangor, what have you, they went for Trump. Yeah, 1 electoral vote is still not all that. It's important. It could have made the difference in the race. Thankfully it wasn't the case. Well, anyway, Dan, give me your thoughts on Trump. And I know that you're a constitutionalist. I know you supported Ron Paul in the past. And we have a few minutes here. So give me your thoughts on Trump and maybe your concerns.
Yeah. I think Ron Paul is more of a libertarian. I think I'm more of a constitutionalist than he is, and I think Dr. Vieira. Ron Paul's a little bit to the right of us, I think. Okay, you're looking for my opinion on Trump?
Yes.
Being retired, I have time, and so I'm doing writing, researching, and watching video all concurrently while I'm on the computer or while the TV's on, the news. I've watched quite a few of Trump's speeches from the get-go, from the one when the famous one when he came down the escalator and announced. Ever since then, I've pretty watched, I would say, more than half. Most of his speeches, they were bright. There was one Right Side Broadcasting broadcasted all his rallies, and I always tuned into them when he was having a rally. And my opinion is that he's sincere. He can play the game with anybody. He can play the game with the best, but I think in his heart, he's sincere and wants the best for America.
Well, I think that was Phyllis Schlafly's take on him as well. And she had a lot of courage. I interviewed, she's since passed away. I interviewed the current president who's now running the Eagle Forum, who co-authored the book, The Conservative Case for Trump. And she vetted him. And, she came back, she said, yeah, okay, the guy isn't exactly a quiet boy. He's been divorced. He's been unfaithful. I mean, if that was a prerequisite, Bill Clinton, wouldn't have been in office. But he's not doing that stuff anymore. And she says he's with us on on the immigration issue. He's not in favor of Planned Parenthood. He's coming out as a pro-lifer. So all these issues that are important to us, he's come out in favor, pretty much on our side of the spectrum. So, and again, you've been following him. You've been listening to his speeches. And, I just watched an interview. It was an older interview. He seems to be really up on the issues. He's not just some kind of multi-billion-dollar playboy that just doesn't know his rear end from his elbow. But he knows the issues. I was impressed.
Well, I think he's been interested in government operations ever since Clinton put in NAFTA.
Yeah.
And approved by the Senate. NAFTA approved by the Senate as a treaty. I think ever since the jobs have been leaving the country,
NAFTA was
Trump's
more
antenna, his radar has been up.
Yeah. NAFTA, I don't think ever. It wasn't actually, Dan. It was called an agreement. So they got the simple majority in both the House and Senate.
It wasn't a treaty.
No.
Well, then it's illegal. He can get rid of it with an executive order.
That's another problem with these things. They don't even call them treaties anymore. 2/3.
It's not a law. Is it a law?
It's really hard to get 2/3 of any body in the Senate. So they give the president this so-called fast track, which means that they negotiate a treaty. An agreement, I should say, not a treaty, although it should be a treaty. It has the force of a treaty. And then they vote on it up and down, no debate, and bingo. It's next thing you know, it's we're suffering under it. And they're only talking about a year or so to feel the impact of NAFTA. Businesses moving down to Mexico, factories closing up, especially in the heartland. And that's where Trump did so well. Now, the first debate I watched, the whole debate, in fact, there was a debate watch not too far from my home. And the thing is, instead of talking about 1,000 issues, he kept on jobs. NAFTA lost jobs. And it resonated with people. Because you know what? When at the end of the day, when people pull the lever, a lot of issues are important to people, and a lot of one-issue type people, whether it be pro-life or Second Amendment or what have you. But if you're out of work and you don't see any prospects, that's a big issue. And oh my goodness, Hillary, she wanted to shut down. She was gloating that she's going to shut down all the coal mines, and I think she only got 18% of the vote in West Virginia. I mean, she didn't do too well in the states where they produce coal, especially I think Kentucky is the same way.
Yeah, my prediction there was going to be a landslide when you asked me, a week or two ago. It turned out to be correct too. Well, and, I didn't know in the beginning. That night, you didn't know. It went till 3 in the morning, and then you still didn't know whether it was people were starting to realize it was a landslide, 306 to 232. What is the definition of a landslide? Because I know that, for example, when Reagan won in 1980, I think there was only one state, Massachusetts. That was a landslide. That was a wipeout.
Yeah, so some things are, you might win a baseball game 20-1 or 8-1, and it's, I don't know, 8-1 is still a pretty good margin. But when you look at the map of counties across the country, and painted, and the Trump one's painted red, and the Crook Hillary one's painted blue. It looks more like a landslide than the electoral vote makes it out. That's true.
Like almost the whole country is red, except for the major cities.
The big left-wing population centers. But you know what's a real tragedy? The very fact that somebody as bad as Hillary could ever be nominated by any party.
Well, she was the pick from the get-go for the global elite.
I mean, the woman's dirty. She was dirty while she was First Lady of Arkansas.
So
she was dirty as First Lady of the United States. Yeah, she was up to her eyeballs. She was a senator, Secretary of State. What a disaster to have someone like that running around the world on behalf of the United States.
I think there was spiritual intervention involved here, for sure. I think a lot of people are doing a lot of praying for Trump.
That's another big issue, too, because I know that our good friend Reverend Stevie Kraft called it a miracle. And I'm not one to say it wasn't a miracle. I think there's still a lot of goodness in our nation, and I know this is my concern, though. First off, that Trump stays the course. Now, I don't expect him to build a wall, or a couple of 1,000 miles long. I don't think it's necessary to do that. By the way, I would love to see Common Core be abolished.
Well, the Rio Grande, you won't have to build a wall at the Rio Grande.
That's right. There are choke points where you would need to have something better than what you have there. But there's a lot of desert to you, so you don't have to put a wall the whole length of the country.
Yeah, you got to have no leaks in the dam. That's right.
And the other thing too is that he mentioned Common Core, and I know a lot of people. Now, to the average American, they don't know what Common Core is. The vote, but to the activists, the ones that hold the signs, the ones that send the checks, Common Core is important. And he said he's going to. Now, what he would do is just say Department of Education. First off, he should abolish the darn thing. And we are no longer going to be set. We're not going to give any money. The money they gave the states has all been gone, so fine. You can't do anything about it now. But you have no obligation. There's no mandate coming from us that you have to deal with these standards. So let the states determine what they're going to do. No more Department of Education. No more arrogant, unelected guys like David Coleman saying there's not a force on earth that will stop me. Well, hopefully there will be a force on earth that will stop him. It's called the President of the United States, and he said cease and desist, and then it goes back to the states, and then so these governors are afraid of their own shadow. All these Republican governors will say, "Oh, I can't help it. It's all coming from the Fed." Now they can't say that. Hopefully, on the Second Amendment, that there will be no gun conversations. There will be no treaties with the UN.
No, he's going to be good on the Second Amendment.
Yeah. On the trade issues, TPP is dead. Now he talks about renegotiating NAFTA, and the head of Canada said, "Yeah, let's do it. What if we just repeal NAFTA? We had a pretty good deal with Canada. We've been dealing with Canada,
I heard him say repeal during the campaign. I don't know if he's changed that.
Yeah, and the other thing too is Obamacare. And no, he did say something about.
There's a couple of pieces. Yeah, there's a couple of pieces that he wants to keep, like kids living at home. There was one other small item, and I forget what it was, but there was two pieces. And Kellyanne, his campaign manager, Kellyanne, she's been on the shows, and she specifies two pieces he wants to keep, and that's it. Everything else is going to be brand new.
Yeah. So, but also you've got a Republican House and Senate.
Yeah.
And what's interesting too, people like Kelly Ayotte lost her seat. She was getting the conservatives really ticked off, and they just probably weren't too excited about pulling the lever for her. And they got a Republican governor in New Hampshire for the first time in a while. Someone that I actually met, Chris, and he was an acquaintance of my late cousin, Chris Sununu. He's the father or the son of the former governor Sununu.
Yeah,
he's more of a neocon, unfortunately.
Kelly made a mistake going against Trump. She lost by a smidgen.
That's right. So
and she would have won.
She would have won.
Now there's rumors that there's all kinds of rumors about cabinet positions, but there's one I heard. There's no way Trump's going to give her Secretary of Defense. Never happened.
No.
She's not
Let's
loyal.
hope not.
She's not loyal. She already proved it.
That's
forget
right.
about it.
Well, I tell you what, though, a good politician, and Trump isn't really a politician. He wants to make amends. You can't compromise. Let's hope that he doesn't have a Newt Gingrich or some of these other, John McCain. These people are the bad guys. The Bush family, the Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina, Paul Ryan.
My opinion on that now is I'm under a loudspeaker here. I think whoever Trump appoints and gets approved by the Senate to be the Attorney General, maybe Giuliani, or may not, but whoever it is, I think Trump is going to being not an attorney, not a constitutional lawyer himself, he's going to let the DOJ do the job according to the Constitution and let the chips fall where they may.
That's where it should. That's
not,
what should
not
happen.
make it political like Obama made the DOJ completely political. I don't think Trump is going to do that.
Going after, I don't suggest he go after certain groups because he doesn't like them or they don't like him.
Well, whatever.
Yeah, Nixon did this kind of thing. He went after liberal groups, although he was a socialist himself. Obama went after Tea Party groups. Yeah, that's right. Uphold the law. And Hillary Clinton, in my opinion, and I think your opinion too, that she's dirty and guilty.
Yeah, the FBI do their investigation, whoever the FBI director is. Let the DOJ indict, and I think Trump won't even be part of it. I think he'll just say, hey, you guys do your job.
Exactly.
I'm not involved.
Exactly. You do your job, and if the person's not doing the job, then you find somebody who will. And if you get these people who are afraid to do their job, find somebody who will not be afraid to do their job. And that's the bottom. That's called justice. And it's not justice just for liberals or just for Republicans or conservatives. It's for justice, period. That's why you see the statue. The Lady Justice is blind. She's got blinders on. And she's got a scale. And Hillary deserves her day in court. If she's guilty of what happened in Benghazi, putting sensitive documents, top secret documents, on a private server, or other some of the pay-to-play stuff she was doing. If she's guilty of this, then she needs to be punished. Just like some poor slob that files a tax return and makes some says he declares some stuff or doesn't declare something. He goes to jail. He gets his property, a lien on his property, loses his business, or like our friend Dr. Kishore goes to jail for 8 months. She ought to have the same thing. Because she's a Clinton doesn't mean she's above the law. Period.
Yeah, I think Trump will just let the chips fall, let the investigation, wherever the evidence leads, and that's where it leads, and that's it.
That's the way it should be done. So my only concern is that there are people who will say, gee, we've won. The war's over. After 100 years, we're going to be so. It happened with Reagan in 1980. People thought, gee, we won this thing. We don't have to worry anymore. We don't have to get too excited. We don't need you. We don't need groups like Camp Constitution because we've already won. We don't have to. But that's a big mistake, and I hope they don't fall for it because, there's a long way to go. In fact, we haven't really achieved anything yet.
No.
But I have to say, I was gratified. I think there's a positive attitude now, like a little spring in the step of people. I could imagine 4 years of maybe 8 years of the Clinton criminal regime. It would have been really, because people need to be motivated. They need a victory once in a while. And again, Trump is far from the ideal candidate. He's not he may become one. He's not a constitutionalist as he should be, but he's promoting a lot of constitutional policies. And again, he's a far cry from the Hillary crime regime. And by the way, I can respect. I've had a lot of friends who voted third party. They voted for Darrell Castle, the Constitution Party, or others. I can respect that, and I've done that as well. But I just looked at another 4 to 8 years of big government. I don't know if we could have survived it. So that's why I like many people, we pull the lever for Trump, hoping that this would at least give us some breathing space.
Yeah, definitely. We would have been in deep doo-doo with Hillary. And
but again,
we get some time to fix things now.
If I started the show before you called in, I mentioned the office of the president is the president has the fewest amount of duties. Well, he's not as powerful as Congress, but the people on the left who are complaining about the election and are so worried about Trump and he's going to do all these horrible things, they have no one to blame but themselves because they want the president to be all-powerful. You remember the guy that was working for Clinton, one of his staff is Paul Begala, I think his name is, and he said something to the effect, executive order, law of the land, kind of cool. Well, that's not in the Constitution. The term executive order isn't there. But you see, and Obama says, well, if I can't get Congress to pass this bill, I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. You see, that, and they have no trouble with that. But when you give the power to someone you like, someone that you don't like may have that power. That's why it doesn't matter who's in office. It's the principle of it. The Republicans passed the so-called Patriot Act, but Obama used it. Now he's in office, and he's using it against patriots, right? So if it's unconstitutional, you say no to it, period. And that's it. Well, we only have a few minutes left, Dan. I want to talk a little bit about our upcoming event. This show is airing Monday, and Monday the 14th, and we're heading up to Maine with Dr. Kishore and Reverend Stevie Kraft. We've got, and we were on the Jack McCarthy show, the Aroostook Watchman, Saturday morning, promoting the events. But we're going to be up in Aroostook County speaking. The topic will be the drug card and the race card, a deadly hand. Dr. Kishore will be talking about the drug problem in Maine and solutions to that problem. And Reverend Kraft will be talking about the race card and how the left, and in some cases the right, uses the race card to squash debate, or to just basically, oh gee, I can't say anything now because I'll be called a racist. And even when it comes to the drug issue, as we saw with the Governor LePage, how the race card is used. They'll be giving a presentation on next Saturday at the Governor's Restaurant. That's at 9 in the morning in Presque Isle, 350 Main Street. And a week from Friday, they'll be speaking at Tang's Chinese Restaurant, Tang's Chinese Cuisine, on that's on Route 1 North Street, 65 North Street, which is it's just south of the 90 where 95 and Route 1 meet on the right-hand side. And both events, free admission. We're going to pass the hat, and people can order off the menu. Now, I know this show is heard around the world and other parts of Maine. Saco, Maine, this coming Tuesday, or tomorrow, Tuesday, at 6:30 at the Dwyer Library, which is right on the main road there. And also Waldoboro, Maine, on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock at the American Legion, 181 Jefferson Street, 7 o'clock. Again, free admission. We'll pass the hat. So, and also up in Lincoln, Maine on Thursday at 7 o'clock at the American Legion Hall there, which is just outside. It's a small town, so you can find it. Can't remember the name of the street offhand, but it's right before you head into town. It's right there on the left as you're heading north into town. So I'm looking forward to those events and other events for Camp Constitution. So, Dan, I want to thank you for calling in. Thank you for listening. God bless you. You've been listening to Camp Constitution Radio with your host, Hal Shurtleff. Until next week, God bless.
God bless.